So NFL Pro Bowler Frank Clark just lost himself $100 million because he violated essentially every California gun law that is on the books, including California's assault weapons laws. So let's talk about this. But real quick, before we jump into this video, I want to thank a couple of the main sponsors of the channel, the first being USCCA. Through your membership, you get training, education, and self-defense liability protection. So if you carry a firearm, if you have a concealed weapons permit, I highly recommend you take a look into USCCA, and I'll put a link to them down in the details section. I also want to thank Route 66 Shooting Sports Park in San Bernardino. We recently had that Armed in May event down there. It's an amazing range. The staff is absolutely amazing. So if you're in the LA area, if you're in the Southern California area, I highly recommend you check out Route 66. And thank you again, Route 66, for supporting this channel. So I was watching ESPN the other day and I saw some headlines hit, and essentially what it was is that the Kansas City Chiefs defensive end Frank Clark is going to lose himself $100 million because he's violated a bunch of California gun laws. Those violations that he's getting hit with include a violation of California's assault weapons law. So I thought this would be an interesting case study to kind of go through, see what he's being charged with, what the whole issue was with him, and then talk about those various California gun laws that we have here in the state. So the article states that Kansas City Chiefs star Frank Clark is facing up to 3 years in prison after prosecutors formally charged him with felony possession of an assault weapon on Friday. The Pro Bowl defensive end was reportedly arrested last month after police officers allegedly spotted an Uzi submachine gun sticking out of a duffel bag in his Lamborghini during a routine traffic stop for a vehicle code violation. Clark was initially arrested and booked in Los Angeles County Jail with a $35,000 bond, then released alongside with the 3 other passengers of his car. So it seems like in this incident, he was pulled over for a traffic violation, and then they saw an Uzi sticking out of a bag. They arrested him, including 3 other individuals in the car, and now it seems like they've posted bond. The report goes on to say that TMZ reported that Clark defended himself by claiming the gun did not belong to him, but rather a member of his security team, though that did not stop prosecutors from hitting him with a felony charge. And then it talks about how soon after Clark's arrest was reported, the Kansas City Star uncovered that Clark has also been arrested in March on another gun charge. In this one, the California Highway Patrol allegedly found a loaded handgun and rifle in his car after pulling him over because his car lacked a front license plate. So here, Frank Clark is facing not just 1, but 2 different arrests and incidences for him violating California gun laws. And some additional information that's coming out of this article was that in 2014, he actually pled to a domestic battery arrest. So he was arrested for some sort of a domestic violence, and then he pled guilty to that. And then there's also a felony home invasion charge that he also pled guilty to back when he was in college. So as you can clearly see, this individual who plays in the NFL and recently signed a 5-year, $100 million contract with the Kansas City Chiefs has a past history with arrest, domestic violence, and other felony charges, but now has gotten hit pretty quick back to back with 2 gun law violations. And so I kind of wanted to run through what actually he may be facing and how bad this is actually going to look for him, because this is kind of relevant for us in the state of California, or even just for anyone else kind of looking in at California's gun laws and seeing like how big of trouble can you get yourself in really quick in the state of California by violating some of these laws. So before we jump into this legal discussion, I want to mention, although I am a licensed and practicing attorney in the state of California, this in no way is legal advice. If you have any specific questions, I highly recommend you reach out to a local representative, a local attorney, and ask them those questions, because they can give you that best guidance. So the first thing that stuck out to me that was pretty blaring when you look at his background was that my belief is that he is already a prohibited person. So he has a conviction for a felony home invasion that he pled guilty to, and then he has also a domestic violence charge that he pled guilty to. So he already has a rap sheet. I think he is probably considered a prohibited person under the state of California. So he's already not supposed to be in possession of any of these firearms. But of course he is, and he's been found on 2 actual incidences of being in possession of firearms. That first instance in being possession of a handgun and a rifle, and then the second one being in possession of what California would deem to be a so-called assault weapon. Now, when it comes to prohibited people in the state of California, you look at California Penal Code 29800, subsection A1. It states that any person who has been convicted of a felony under the laws of the United States, the state of California, or any other state, so it doesn't matter where he got that felony conviction, government or country, or of any offense enumerated in various other subdivisions, or who is addicted to use of narcotic drugs, or who owns, purchases, receives, or has in possession or under the custody and control of any firearm is guilty of a felony. So one of the things that this article stated that he said, hey, this wasn't mine, it was someone else, but technically by him driving the vehicle, it's in his vehicle, it's under his custody, so it doesn't matter if he's saying it belongs to anyone else. He is a prohibited person, he has a felony record, and he's in possession of this so-called assault weapon in the state of California, and it doesn't matter that he's saying, hey, it's someone else's, it's under his custody, it's under his control in his vehicle. So just right there, you can see from the penal code, he's a prohibited person, he's not supposed to be in possession of these items, and yet on multiple occasions, he has been found in possession of these items. So just right there, he's violating California's laws by being a prohibited person in possession of items he's not supposed to be. And then you go to some of the bigger charges that a lot of people are talking about, which are those violations of California's ban on so-called assault weapons. And for those laws, you look at things like California Penal Code 30515, and under that penal code, you have various categories of firearms like semi-automatic centerfire rifles with detachable magazines. With a flash hider, it's an assault weapon. With a pistol grip, it's an assault weapon. With a collapsible stock, it's considered an assault weapon. So that penal code outlines what California deems to be so-called assault weapons. And if you're in possession of those items, and especially if you're in possession of those items and they're not a registered assault weapon in the state of California, because the state of California did have some registration periods, which it doesn't seem like this is a registered assault weapon in the state of California. I would highly doubt it is. But if you're in possession of those, then you're found guilty of actually violating the assault weapons laws, and you're going to get hit with a felony. And even more so, he's violated California's transportation laws and also concealed carry law. So when it comes to transportation in the state of California, we have specific laws that say you have to transport firearms in various ways and in specific ways. In the state of California, the general rule is if you are going to transport a firearm, it's best to do so unloaded in a locked container. That way you will not violate any of California's laws. That's just the general rule. When people ask me, how do I transport a firearm? The general rule is unloaded in a locked container. Well, it doesn't seem like he did any of those things also here, because he had this Uzi just kind of sticking out of a duffel bag. So it doesn't seem like it was in a locked container for sure in that instance. And then the other situation where he was found in possession of a loaded rifle and a loaded handgun, well, that's clearly not unloaded and in a locked container. It sounds like those were just kind of out and they were loaded. So in those two instances, in those two different ones, he's violating California's transportation laws. But also the way in which he was transporting these firearms would also make him be in violation of California's concealed carry laws. Because in the state of California, if you were going to transport a firearm, you have to do it in a specific way. And if you were concealing that firearm in your vehicle when you're transporting it and you're not adhering to those transportation laws, you are also violating California's concealed carry laws. So for example, when you look at California Penal Code 25400, a person is guilty of carrying a concealed firearm when the person does any of the following: carries concealed within any vehicle that is under the person's control or direction any pistol, revolver, or other firearm capable of being concealed upon the person. So that Uzi, even if it wasn't considered to be an assault weapon in the state of California, it would still be considered a concealable weapon, and then he would have to transport it in a specific way. But here he would be violating Penal Code 25400 because he's concealing it in that vehicle that's under his control, and he's not adhering to the transportation unloaded in a locked container laws. Now, with all these violations that we've talked about, a multitude of different penalties can actually happen. For example, the concealed carry one, you can get a 1-year prison sentence, and then you could also get a $1,000 fine and or both, or either or. So you could get the 1,000, or you can get the 1 year, or you can get both. And then the assault weapons law, that's a felony with various penalties that can be attached to that. And then you look at other things like transportation violations, you can get something for that as well. Prohibited person, you can get enhancements also because he has a background of being a prohibited person, so he could get enhancements on some of these penalties. So Frank Clark, through his actions, has gotten himself in a lot of trouble and probably has ended his NFL career. He had a 5-year, $100 million contract that he had with the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, the Kansas City Chiefs are always up for potentially making a run at the Super Bowl. But it seems like because of this, he's not going to be on the team anymore. He's probably going to get released. He's going to lose out on a lot of that money. And my bet would be in his contract, there are various clauses and provisions that say that if he commits felonies while actually employed by Kansas City, they can void a bunch of his contract terms. So my guess is a lot of that would happen. But even more so, now he has to be worried about spending a lot of time in prison because he's violated various California gun laws. So I thought this would just be an interesting case study, but of course this doesn't kind of fall into the general category of normal individuals like me and you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not driving around in a Lamborghini with an Uzi just kind of sticking out and doing things like that. I think he was in also, I think it mentioned like Compton or something like that, or one of the arrests was in Compton. But I just thought this was an interesting case study to kind of look at some of these California gun laws and how they're being applied to someone who's violated quite a bit of them. So if you guys have any questions, go and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you guys like this video and like support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is just to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm. It helps to signal to YouTube that you guys see value in these types of videos. And then it pushes this video to more individuals who want to hear this type of two-way news. And even if you don't have anything to specifically comment on, just commenting, hey, I'm just commenting to fuel the algorithm, I really appreciate that. And you'll see me in the comment section kind of giving you guys thumbs up and just thanking you guys for doing that, because I really do appreciate it. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.